If you're thinking about moving into a family home anywhere in HRM, there's a very good chance that Bedford is already on your mind. And that's not by accident, my friend. Bedford attracts families for a very specific reason. You typically end up with more space, newer homes, access to some of the top schools for your kids, and a lifestyle that feels a little bit more settled compared to some of the other urban cores in HRM in Nova Scotia. But once buyers start looking seriously, almost everyone runs into the same question. Do I choose Bedford West, where there's a newer construction and more modern layouts? Or do I go a little bit over to Old Bedford with mature lots, established streets, and better proximity to the Bedford Basin? On the surface, it can feel like a simple comparison. Now you have new versus old, modern versus character. In reality, this decision is far more nuanced, and getting it wrong can leave families feeling frustrated, overextended, or stuck in a home that just doesn't actually support their day-to-day lifestyle. I'm gonna walk you through how families really decide between Bedford West or moving to Old Bedford, how school boundaries can impact the pricing, and why the commute, while really is often more manageable than what people expect, and how you can plan properly to avoid some of these rush hour times. I'm Logan Tomczyk, your real-life realtor here in HRM. I work with a lot of move-up buyers and relocating families in Bedford, and this conversation comes up every single time. If schools and space are at the top of your list, I've also put together a free home buyer's guide to help you through every step of the buying process. It's linked below in the description of this video if you wanted to check it out and follow along. Now, let's start by talking about Bedford just as a whole for the area. Bedford sits in a really interesting position in HRM. It offers more space than the peninsula, it has better access to highways than many suburban areas, and it has a strong sense of community. For families who are outgrowing their current home, Bedford often feels like the next logical step for them. But Bedford is not one single experience here. The lifestyle you get in Bedford is very different from the lifestyle you get in Old Bedford. So even though they're only minutes apart, you can really feel the difference here. Bedford West is where most of the newer construction is centered around, and you can still see the cranes out today. Now, what does this tend to mean for homes in the area? Here, you'll tend to find more open concept layouts, larger primary bedrooms, attached garages, heat pumps, better insulation, and ever so desired new home warranties. For many families, that peace of mind, it matters a lot. Fewer worries and lower maintenance in those early years can really help with those monthly costs as well. Newer homes also tend to be more energy efficient, which can make a noticeable difference in your utility bills year over year. But the trade-off with Bedford West is that a lot of the homes are often smaller, the streets can feel more uniformed, and you might lose a sense of individual character when buying a home here. There also could be restrictive covenants that might affect your property. Now, for some families, that's a benefit. You end up with a more turnkey lifestyle, and you know from the covenants that the neighborhood will consistently look and feel the same. 2026 is proving that consistency is key, and having a consistent neighborhood is never a bad thing when you know what to expect. If we flip the coin for others, this can feel restrictive. I mean, it's literally in the name. They're called restrictive covenants, not do whatever you want covenants. This is where Old Bedford can come into the conversation. Now, Old Bedford offers a completely different feel. You have mature trees, larger lots, homes that sit closer to the Bedford Basin, streets that feel established rather than planned. A lot of families are drawn to Old Bedford because it feels less suburban and more settled. You often get more privacy, more outdoor space, and a stronger sense of individuality from one home to the next. Now let's talk about the trade-offs, and of course, we're going to focus on the age of these homes. Older homes often mean older systems, unless the seller has updated them. But you're looking at roofs, windows, plumbings, and all installations need to be evaluated carefully, where maintenance costs can be higher if these upgrades haven't been tended to for a while. This is where buyers need to be honest with themselves. Are you comfortable maintaining an older home? Or would you prefer a little bit more predictability of something newer? Now, let's talk about the factor that influences pricing in both areas more than anything else. And yes, I'm talking about the schools. Let's talk about CPL and high school just for a minute here. It's a major driver for demand in the Bedford area. For many families, being zoned for CPA is a non-negotiable for them, and that demand creates a price premium across both Bedford West and Old Bedford. It's also important to understand that school boundaries can change, and not every part of Bedford is automatically zoned for CPA. This is something families need to confirm early on, not after they've fallen in love with a house. But don't worry, I can check every listing before we even book a showing to make sure if you have specific schools that you would like to send your children to, we can make sure that your future home is in the proper district so we don't waste anyone's time. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. And I'm going to talk about the commute here. The Bedford Highway is the main artery connecting Bedford to Halifax. And during those peak rush hour times, it can be slow. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There's no avoiding that conversation and pretending it doesn't matter because it really does, and buyers need to know these things. This is, again, the trade-off that families are making when you move out to anywhere in Bedford. You're trading a longer commute for more space, better schools, and often newer or larger homes. The key is whether that trade-off is manageable for you and your lifestyle. This becomes very real for a family that I worked with. Now, just for privacy, let's call them the Smiths. They were moving from a smaller rental in Halifax. They had outgrown their space, they needed more bedrooms, and they wanted to be in a good school zone for their growing family. Now, they thought Bedford would be the best place for them. Before we even started booking showings, the husband, he did a drive test during rush hour. And you can imagine the commute was shocking to him and a little bit surprising. He was convinced that traffic would completely change his quality of life, and he was ready to walk away from Bedford altogether. Now, instead of making a decision in panic, we slowed things down. We looked at where the house sat relative to the highway access. We talked about any alternative routes that they could make for their daily commutes. And then we did something simple, but again, often overlooked. We talked about work flexibility. Maybe they could change their hours. Maybe they could work from home more often. And after our discussion and really breaking down the issues, what initially felt impossible, it suddenly became more manageable. The real conflict wasn't with the commute itself. It was whether they were willing to structure their week differently to support the lifestyle that they wanted. Now, ultimately, they bought an amazing home in Halifax, not Bedford. But the point is, it's where they found the right home. It's to see if issues like the commute are too big to change your lifestyle for, or should we just discuss things a little bit more thoroughly to see if it really is a big issue to begin with, or is this something that we're okay managing? They didn't eliminate the trade-offs. They planned around them. And that's how any potential issue during the home buying process should be addressed. It's not about pretending Bedford West is better than Old Bedford or vice versa. It's about understanding the trade-offs you're willing to live with and keep the focus on what your lifestyle is and whether you need a future home that's more new or a future home that has a bigger yard. If you value low maintenance, modern layouts, and predictability, Bedford West often makes sense. If you value larger lots, character, and more established feel for your neighborhoods, Old Bedford might be the better fit for you. If the commute feels intimidating, it doesn't mean Bedford's off the table. It just means that the discussion needs to be made with strategy, not with fear. If Bedford is part of your next move and you want help thinking through the process properly, you need to download my free home buyer's guide. The link is in the description below. And if you want to talk through options one-on-one, I'm always happy to grab a coffee. I'm always happy to grab a coffee and map out your plan with you to work with your lifestyle so we can find something that fits. My contact information is in the description below to give access to my weekly schedule where you can book in a time with me personally. I'm Logan Tomczyk. I'm your real life realtor, and my job is to make your realty dreams happen.